Good morning, everyone. I would like to call to order the Tuesday, October 5th, 2021 regular meeting of the Hendry County School Board. If so led, please stand and join us in the invocation followed by the pledge. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Superintendent, at this time, do you have any presentations?
We do have a couple presentations this morning. Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending. The first presentation, I would like to start out by saying that living in a rural part of Florida, y'all know that we struggle with a lot of things. We struggle with a lot of the things we don't have and how far we have to drive and the amenities that we miss and we don't have, but we do it because we love rural life. And oftentimes people think that puts us at a disadvantage. However, today we have a special guest with us from Central Elementary that not only has shown that in spite of everything we don't have, you can still be an absolutely brilliant individual. And to further expand upon that, I'm going to ask Ms. Carter to come forward, please, and to kind of fully explain the whole situation. And Blair.
Good morning.
Morning.
So this is one of our students from last year in 3rd grade that scored a perfect score on her math FSA. So we want to congratulate her for all of her hard work and to hold that high expectation again of doing just as well next year, or this year, right? So the pressure is on, but she loves math, and we're going to work really hard to get her to where she needs to be. So, awesome. Congratulations.
So, y'all can be seated if you like, because it's going to take a few minutes to do the second part of it. So, this is a very, very huge accomplishment. We're so very impressed at what Blair has accomplished. We're not really surprised because we know her mom and her daddy pretty well, and we know her genetics, and so we know she gets it honestly. But nonetheless, we're very proud of the accomplishments. And so what we have is from the school board of Hendry County, and it is an achievement award for your hard work and your excellence, signed by all of the school board and myself. And we want to say congratulations. Yeah, I'll let you hold that one. That's number one. Now the second one, as if that's not good enough, another individual who happens to be the governor of the state of Florida sent a special certificate of achievement to Blair Stone, because it's pretty special in this state to accomplish what you did. And so even the governor appreciates it and recognizes it, and we're all very proud of you. So on behalf of Governor Ron DeSantis, congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Good. So much.
The school Swindle team that came, y'all are welcome to stay if y'all would like for the rest of the meeting, but if y'all would like to leave, this is probably the right time.
Mr. Swindle, can I recognize her teacher?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Samples was her teacher in 3rd grade, and actually she looped through her class in 4th grade, so.
Wow. Well. Thank y'all very much for coming. Yeah, exactly. Our next presentation this morning, in keeping in step with the presentations that we are doing to kind of inform the board and the public of some of the inner operations that we have going on within the district. Today we have our reading coach presentation, and to get us started and make the introductions, Ms. Duncan will start off.
Yes, thank you. To the meeting, I have the honor and privilege of introducing our reading coach team. So they're all here in their glory, and I will introduce them as they come up. Each of them will be speaking with you. So if you'll just wave your hand as they go by. I'm Laura Lofton. She represents secondary. Tricia Race Boykin, elementary. Rosa Perez, secondary. Karen Johnson, secondary. Kim Jordan, elementary. And we have Melanie Holt, who wears a couple of different hats. She's definitely our data person for the district, but also supports us with elementary coaching across the district as well. And then Ms. Sasha Tapp. Good morning. So I will let them guide you through their presentation, and we'll be glad to answer questions at the end.
All right, so I'm going to go over some of our roles as coaches based on, this comes from our K-12 comprehensive evidence-based reading plan, the reading plan. But anyway, coaches will. So these are some of our jobs. We will model effective instructional strategies for our teachers. Just like our teachers are modeling for their students, we're modeling for our teachers so that they can use that in their classrooms. We are facilitating small groups. When we have new curriculum, we have to look at data, working with our small groups. On a regular basis. We are training our teachers to use data. We want them to do the progress monitoring in their class to affect their instruction, and we want to make sure that they know what data is out there for each of their students. We monitor and coach our teachers, and this year we've also probably taken on roles of like guidance and stuff like that because it's a very challenging year for our teachers, but we do that daily. Coaches will work with teachers to ensure that we are using our evidence-based reading programs with implementing with fidelity, because you can give them the best program, and if they're not implementing it the way it's intended, then we're just missing the mark, and we know that's not good for our students. And then we are working with our coaches. Will work with our principals to make sure that we have those goals of the reading achievement so that we are improving our student outcomes all the time. That is my part.
We wanted to share, as a team, we wanted to share this quote with you. It says, the greatest influence on student progression and learning is having highly expert, inspired, and passionate teachers and school leaders working together to maximize the effect of their teaching on all students in their care. This is really our mantra, if you will. We understand that the importance of being intentional and being purposeful with everything that we do. And so we're really excited about what we're doing this year. John Hattie, this is a quote by John Hattie. John Hattie is a world-renowned educational researcher. He's completed probably over 1,200 meta-analysis, and through that, what he's done is he has Hattie's effect size list. His hinge point for that is 0.40. Any influences, could be a best practice, could be curriculum, could be a mindset. If it falls within that range, then he's saying that the potential is 1 year's growth, 1 year student achievement growth. Anything that goes above that, up to about 1.62, has the potential of 2, 3, almost 4 years worth of student achievement in 1 year. And then the opposite of that is you go below that hinge point of 0.40, then you start having he says the research proves that if you're doing these things, you're having a negative impact on student achievement. So this is just one piece of research that we use. We've incorporated into our new teacher program. We use it during PLCs because we want teachers to understand why they're learning that, why we're coaching in a certain way, why we're mentoring in a certain way. And so his research is very important to us, and we try to incorporate that in everything that we do. At the bottom of this screen, you'll see the face of a book. It's called Visible Learning for Literacy. It's one of John Hattie's book, and it speaks to the impact on student achievement and that list and what they use. Again, John Hattie's research is only one piece of research that we use. Ms. Johnson is going to share another piece that we use.
Okay, and as we were working on this training, we of course said that we had to have the reading rope, and to include this slide and have the reading rope, because this is all about the science of reading, okay? And as we were preparing this, I was thinking about, we were all together working on this PowerPoint, and I was thinking about, I had a kind of a flashback into a classroom walkthrough I was doing with an outside consultant who was very well paid. And we were walking through an intensive reading class, and we were looking for grade level text. We were looking for alignment to the FSA standards, and that's the main thing we were looking for. Everything had to be aligned to that standard. Everything had to be based on grade level text. And what I'm going to say is we know better now, and we do better now, because the Common Core is gone. We have brought in new standards that are based very solidly on the science of reading. And this is a kind of course, oversimplified, but it gives you an idea of, this is something that we received from the state and that we brought back to our teachers. And I'm going to demonstrate just a little bit of how we presented to the teachers, because we have a lot to overcome. Because we had this idea that if kids worked often enough and hard enough with grade level text, that somehow it was going to magically work. Well, we wish it would. I would love to set my scale on 120 and look at it really hard every day. I would love to. It'd be wonderful. Okay? And that's what we knew at the time. That was what we were told to do, mandated by the state. However, there's been a huge shift. Now there are foundational reading standards based on the science of reading that are in every secondary class. We have about, at LMS, I'm just quoting from us, we have about 7 to 12% of our students that are struggling with phonics. And in the past, we've given them more grade level text. There was no adopted curriculum by the state, etc. And it was just, I'm just going to say, we do better now. And this is what I brought back to the middle school, was that there's two parts of reading. And it's very complex. What we're asking kids to do is very complex, and it builds over years. But it needs to be super strategic, and it needs to include all the parts, not just what it looks like at the top from the outside when you're watching someone read. So the first strand is the word recognition. These are the things that need to be taught very explicitly and systematically in elementary school. These things go together. These are the things that kids, it becomes more and more automatic, and the kids don't even realize they do it anymore. It has to come to that point, like driving a car. You don't think about what you're doing, you're just doing it because you've had that much practice with it. And you've been taught specifically how to do it. Okay? And then there's the other rope, that is the language comprehension. And these are the more complex skills. These are the strategies that you use and that you're constantly growing for the rest of your life as a reader. For example, if you were to go to med school right now, you would look at language structures, because all of a sudden, Greek and Latin would be super important for you because of that vocabulary you need to acquire. So these two pieces go together, and every single one is an important part of that skill of reading. You can't just say, you didn't learn phonics, well, you'll pick it up later. It has to be specifically addressed at the middle school level, and at the high school level even. Okay, so that is one of the things that we do, and we really embrace the state of Florida bringing this now to us, giving us training that we in turn bring to the teachers. Okay, thank you.
And I think it's important too to recognize that the simple view of reading is multiplicative. So when you multiply, if there's a 0, the product will be 0. Right. If any of those areas is not there.
So these are just some of our coaching practices. We implement the coaching cycle, which that would include co-teaching, modeling, observation, and feedback. And then we also have collaborative planning with teachers. So example could be we meet with grade group and plan those effective standards-based lessons. Weekly PLCs focus on literacy. So some of the PLCs that we facilitate are picking strategies, small group instruction, phonics strategies, formative assessment, things like that. And then we provide professional development as well. So we provide best standards professional development for principals and for teachers. We've also done some benchmark PD, and then we are also going to be rolling out the math best standards as well. And then we're also just a sounding board for teachers, so building those relationships with them, helping to solve their problems, and just let them have a voice.
So some other areas are data analysis, helping teachers dig into their data, analyze it, triangulate all of the data. We have an abundance of data, but knowing how to interpret that data to impact instruction in the classroom, that's an important part of what we do. Also, school literacy teams. I think every school has a literacy team. Administrators, coaches, teachers, and some parents on the literacy team. So, bringing all stakeholders in and working together. And that's always based on the data as well. Restorative practices, this is so important.
Yes.
It's so important, right? Building our teachers, building those communities, that strong community, that sense of belonging. What Kim was saying earlier about that effect size, we know that collective efficacy is a 1.57 on effect size. That is like one of the highest on the chart. So 0.4 is effective, collective efficacy, 1.57. That's huge, huge piece in those restorative practices. We also, this was touched on too in the statute, with the fidelity of implementation of all reading programs. Programs don't teach teachers, right? And the best money, you can buy the best programs, but if it's not implemented with fidelity, you're not going to get that impact. So just teaching teachers how to implement, with fidelity, programs that we purchase. So you get your money back from that. And also,
All right, one of the things that the state is really looking at is these model classrooms, K to 12. So one of the things as reading coaches is that we go out and we do literacy walks with our principals, and we find these pockets of that teachers are doing really well, and we hope to convince them, because that's hard, to be a model classroom. If they're doing really good with pagan structures, then we want other teachers to go in and be able to observe that those pagan structures are going on. And one of the things that we can do as coaches is we can step in and be in that teacher's classroom so that they can go visit another teacher that's doing something that's highly effective to help our students. So that's model classrooms. Then we have unpacking of the best ELA standards. We're all going through that this year. I am in charge of the ones at the high school, and we've already started. And really this is about, okay, what is it that the students need to do? What do they need to know for the standard, and what do they need to do? And where is that level of complexity? Are we getting to that level of complexity? And I can tell you, in primary it's different. When you look at the new best standards, it's like K to 12. You can look at the list. If you're talking about theme, there's certain things that in kindergarten they're going to do, and then there's certain things by 12th grade that they have to do. And in 12th grade, a lot of it is evaluating and just being able to write and critique authors and papers and arguments. The literacy walks is something that we also do. We do it with the district when the district comes once a month, and then we also do it with our principals when they're asking us to do it. So we go through, and this is like through the whole campus. It's not just ELA. We go through the campus and we see how's it going in literacy. How's it going in math? Math has its literacy. Social studies has its literacy. So we walk through and we look to see, is there a learning target task alignment? Is there the Wicker strategies in secondary? You know, we really want to use those AVID strategies. We want to see that writing, collaboration, organization, reading, all that being reinforced. And if it isn't, then these are conversations that, of course, your principals have with the teachers, and then as coaches, we go in and model and provide professional development, however the principal sometimes wants to approach it for the school. Okay, and then we do maintain a coach's log. A lot of that is based on the needs of the school itself and based on the needs of the teachers that we're working with. The clinical educators training, that's something that our reading coaches have been involved in as well. They train teachers to be able to be leaders in their school. And what this is a teacher goes through this course and they're able to be a leader for their school, but also they're able to have an intern from a university or college that wants to go into education. They're able to provide that for them. Anything else with that, Karen?
Yes, and the focus is very much on the one-on-one working with a mentee, with new teachers that have come in, and very much hands-on with that. And I think that has been really critical in our school, I know, in the new teachers developing, because they have one person that has been trained in actually in coaching. It's kind of a coaching model that they have for them.
And that's good because that builds capacity, because that's always something that we want to do as a district overall, is build capacity at each of the schools, get these teacher leaders so that they'll stay and they'll help be supported from other teachers that are coming up.
So we have just included in the last to end it up some pictures of us working with teachers at different schools, building that leadership capacity, that collective efficacy. This is LHS, with grade level groups, Wicker strategies, during PLCs, some benchmark PD at Westside, Eastside. Providing professional development. That was a Phonics PD we did for K and First back in July. Really at the heart of coaching is just building those relationships with our teachers so that all of those things that we can do very well. So
Thank you very much. I know, I'm sure there are questions from the board, but before they go, I just wanted to say, y'all know that we have 3 main initiatives that we were pushing out from the district leadership standpoint. Literacy. We know that if we don't teach our babies to read, that the world's stacked against them. And this team of reading coaches, everything that you've talked about fits right in line with that. I appreciate your hard work and your efforts and everything you're doing. I know that over the years we haven't had coaches, and it's kind of been used at times, not at times, with fidelity and not with fidelity. But I think looking at where we are today, what you're doing is absolutely blazing the path for where we need to go to increase literacy with our students. So thank you all very much. Board, are there any questions?
I have a question. But this year we bought a new reading program, and I just wondered what your impressions were. Does it meet these responsibilities well? Are you happy with that?
One thing I've noticed with it, Wiley Blevins, he's done a lot of research on phonics, and his piece of that is embedded in this curriculum and how you teach phonics, and the curriculum does this as well, where they teach like little mini lessons of phonics, and then from there it's embedded into the reading, and then from there it's embedded into the writing, and then it comes back again. And it spirals throughout the year. So that's one thing that we like, because you're not just teaching phonics in isolation, you're actually applying it to the reading and the writing. So I do like that piece of it.
Thank you.
How's the vocabulary? I think it's really good. That's
direct.
Yeah, direct instruction.
There's an element in every
That's an area that we've always.
there's a vocabulary routine. So it's, they follow the same routine.
Use it or you'll lose it.
That falls under Patty's research, and direct instruction is 0.70 effect size. So
I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job.
They are doing
Fantastic.
fantastic.
Okay, is that ready? That's it, all right. So, I appreciate your presentation today. As I was sitting here and absorbing what I was seeing and hearing, one of the things that stood out most to me was what was missing. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, but October is National Disabilities Month. And do you want to know, do any of you know what the most common academic disability is? Dyslexia. That's 1 in 5 kids. And you know, you're thinking at the 20% mark, my mind, data-wise, automatically goes to your bottom quartile. That's approximately 1,460 kids in this district. 2 of those kids that used to be in this district were mine. And so I'm very passionate about literacy because what was going on before absolutely failed my kids. And the other 1,458, just like them. And it has set them behind the 8 ball. We are literally fighting for our lives and for their abilities to be successful in the future. And the tutors that I have to pay are $100 an hour. And that a lot of sacrifice goes into being able to provide that because it failed on the school level. And what kills me is not how much it costs me to remediate, it's the families that don't have the resources, that can't make it happen, and what the future holds for their kids. And so, I mean, it's something that weighs on me heavily. Anybody who follows me on Twitter knows that I'm just like all over literacy and reading. I'm just, the outcomes that we have had for these kids are atrocious. And it's not just Hendry County, it's the state of Florida, it's the entire nation. And so when I see this presentation, I want to know what's being done specifically. How are you guys working with the ESE department? Because most of these kids don't get a label. I literally had to get attorneys. I had to go to war to get my kid a label so they would put the word dyslexia in an IEP. And so, you know, what I'm providing right now for my kid is a pound of cure. And, you know, knowing up front what these kids needs, how many of them and what their needs are, I just want to know, you know, what are you guys doing to address that and help teachers address that population and provide that ounce of prevention? Because you can remediate. I bought the programs, I got the tutors, it's working. But if you can get ahead of that, and particularly, you know, I know that we can control the K through 12, but the VPKs, like we have a ton of those on our campuses. And when you look at the outcomes, I don't think they're producing the outcomes because I think am I right, Dr. Mundy, that VPK has their own little curriculums and they do. And so we're starting our kids, I think, almost at like that balanced literacy and then trying to move them in their pre-reading skills.
It is starting to come together, you know, and that's a work in progress. You know, there is that smoothing line, but one thing we are doing, we just offer professional development. So making reading instruction explicit is one of them. This is a one-day training, but we have broken it down so that it can be accomplished during PLCs in different sessions. This is a start. It is specifically designed, and you can see like the adjusted reading rope on the front and all of those pieces that go into it. So you're welcome to do.
Thank you. Do we have any reading coaches who are dyslexia certified or Orton Gillingham certified?
No, but the MaxScholar program that we purchased does focus on, it works with the Orton Gillingham.
We have some of our hours, but none of us have all of the hours. It takes a certain amount of hours, so we're working on that. But another thing we're doing, this just started September 28th, and it'll run to December 7th. Okay, so this one's longer. This is 40 hours, so that's a one-day training, which is a pretty good start, you know. but this is a 40-hour training exploring structured literacy. So this is being offered. I also have the flyer and the syllabus if you would like to look at that, which is nice because it's
Is that through HEC? Is that through HEC?
But
Fiddlers, okay.
Peddlers.
But we were trained and then we disseminate that to teachers. Yeah. So Sasha's actually leading a group right now.
And when you were speaking about the VPK, we do have this language and vocabulary. The pre-K and kindergarten training that we're doing, this takes a year. So this is not something, it's developing a teachers over an entire year. And we've only completed at some schools module 1. So we're still working on this. But this also is, that VPK and kindergarten. So this, when you're thinking about the rope, we're talking a little bit about the decoding. This is the language comprehension piece. Because remember, we know it has to be all of those pieces of the strand. So this is good.
And it follows a lot along the lines of the Orton Gillingham where they're getting it, you're reaching out to all the learners.
Multi-sensory.
Well, it's, as Ms. Holt just said, it does, the ELL learners, your English language learners have a lot of the same issues as your dyslexic learners too. And so,
all learners, right?
I think that, that's your foundational, that it doesn't leave anybody behind. Speaking of MaxScholar, in your presentation, it said had to be implemented with fidelity. And I actually got my hands on MaxScholar data, and it wasn't last year at all. And that was an entire year that the foundation chipped in money, and the foundation had to report back to the legislature because we used matching grant money, and the foundation had to report back to our private funder who was not happy with the outcome and the implementation. And there was a lot of things going on that grant, and it allowed me to look at that, but that was an entire year that kids lost. And it's personal to me. When these kids lose, it's personal to me.
May I speak to MaxScholar briefly?
Sure.
And I'll ask the ladies to add on if I missed something. So MaxScholar came in towards the end of last year, middle past. So we did have some complications getting that implemented across the district, just based on the timelines in which we began the program. We were able to get supplies, able to get coaching. We had some complications with training and so forth. We did meet this year and talk about MaxScholar and how we wanted to utilize it this year. And we are using it as primarily as a tier 3 intervention, some with tier 2 and some variations in the schools. It is not every kid across the board for the whole school district. It is very targeted for the kids that that's the best need and the best fit for. We did spend many thousands of dollars additional out of the district funding through SAI, Supplemental Academic Instruction, to ensure for this school year that we did provide all schools ample hard copy resources, ample licensure for the students that they needed, and ample training on site to be able to produce that moving forward. The coaches are working really hard. That's not their primary adopted program, if you will, but they are supporting that alongside their MTSS coordinators to ensure that the resources are available, that teachers have the training. We have a site administrator for MaxScholar as well, which may or may not be them depending on who the school assigns that lead. And I think we're making good progress with that, with the parameters that we have identified as primarily being tier 2 and tier 3 intervention piece for students in which that's an appropriate strategy for. Anything else? So I think
there's ways to go with that, right? But
They're coming in too. They're coming back in. MaxScholar representatives are coming back in.
Yeah, so you're working
for
with them
more
this year.
training, right? To work on maybe a hybrid. Because what I'm seeing, at least on my campus, is that they just didn't know how to use it. They've had little bits of training, so we're getting them that training to where now they're going to be using it with fidelity the way the program's supposed to be used, according to what the district is telling us.
And it's always been, in my experience, when you focus on what's not working, you get more of what's not working. If you focus on what is working, that grows. So there are pockets of things that are definitely working. Not to turn a blind eye to things that aren't working, but to give it our focus to what is working and watch it grow.
And another thing that we've been doing as well, even with our new teacher, is bringing to light dyslexia. We incorporated, what it looks like for them. we just did at our last meeting, right, to work with an ELL student, to work with a student with a disability, and have them really go through that process of what it looks like, what it feels like, and how to really go back to their classrooms and attack those needs in their students.
And then, Madam Chair, the only other thing that I can add is, by the time we wrote the grant in October, got awarded the funds, purchased, we had to, get quotes, that process takes time. By February, everybody was possibly trained, that was going to be trained. And then to implement starting in February and expect FSA scores in March to have an impact, on the FSA scores. It usually takes more than 2 months to show the implementation is being done with fidelity and that the PD occurs. And we had issues with the PD. One day, the PD was here, the
Power went out.
Power grid went out. So then that had to be rescheduled, and then there was another, it was virtual because of COVID. There were a lot of things that we overcame to make sure that we could get as many teachers trained as possible and implemented as soon as we could. And then we're just going to continue that. We're not dropping it. We are fully funding it with other funds, federal funds, SAI funds, in order to move forward with it. So it's very important.
And I can appreciate that. What I saw last year was subscriptions being purchased and not even touched. And I have the list of all the kids' names, and they've got a subscription, and that was paid for with taxpayer dollars, and they never even touched it. So if we were going to focus on training, then we should have gone all in on training last year instead of, we spend a ton of money in this district, and in any other kind of business model, they expect outcomes. And less than 50% in any other business model, there would be very critical scrutiny of the outcome. So, but I appreciate.
I just wanted to say we're not dropping it. We're going to keep moving forward. We feel like it is a good program, and we're going to hit those students that really need it.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate it going forward. But
Can I say something? At Closton High School, I've just been added this MaxScholar for this year. I got the training, one of the trainings this summer. So what I'm looking at for our school is looking at that bottom 25 of 10th grade, because our bottom 25 of 9th grade is doing extreme reading. So right now I'm in the process of identifying those students, making, seeing where they are in those intensive reading classes, going in and modeling lessons for teachers. But it is a process, it's something new that I've been asked to move forward with at Closton High School, but those are the plans for at least in the secondary Closton High School.
And I'm so glad you're there. I'm so glad you're leaning in. I'm going to there's certain data that sticks in your craw more than others, and knowing that 40 of our kids at Closton High School last year, our graduating seniors, did not have couldn't pass their 10th grade ELA is stuck right there. 14 at LaBelle High School, but the 40 in my hometown was a hard pill to swallow. And so I do appreciate leaning in. I'm sorry if I'm coming off aggressive, but I'm fired up about literacy because I see firsthand impacted, and I see when you start extrapolating that and thinking about the other kids and the other families and what their
I think this
trajectory is.
is focus on the science and reading, focus on the phonics. We all have sat there and said, well, we did used to do the whole language, and we know we failed some students, but I think it's changing. When we go to our regional meetings and stuff, there's tables there from universities, like hopefully they're making changes in their college of education, because I didn't get trained on Gillingham when I was in college. And we had more teachers that
colleges of education
had no training in college education. So we're kind of picking up that slack and stuff. But I do think we're on the right track to not fail.
Pieces of whole language that I'm going to say this, that we still embed like those high frequency words. That's whole language. And I know I keep going back to the research, but according to research, it's 0.0 .06
Of what we did before.
on what we used to do. And so
Yes.
now, when you talk about direct instruction is .70, phonics is .70. So I'm excited about being a part of this group and being in this district and seeing the shift, the mind shift. And we're even talking about doing the book study on shifting the balance between science and the balance of literacy. And it talks about those things, still teaching sight words without realizing that sight words are decodable. There's pieces of sight words that are decodable. And so we're really excited about putting that into place too with our teachers.
And not just us, but, creating a teacher group, PLC, that can work through this.
And I apologize if I am being aggressive. I am an aggressive person. But what folks, you're telling me your side here, but I've been in this fight for 10 years. 10 years, and everybody has seen the outcomes and what has happened as a result of this fight for literacy for my kids and similarly situated children. And so I'm a little skeptical about everything. I've been promised a lot, and but I appreciate the effort that it is taking to turn that ship. And I know it's like an oil tanker. You don't spin that around like a ski boat and head the other direction. But I'm all over you guys. I'm interested in everything that you're doing. If anybody would like to adopt a board member for the day to shadow you and see what you're doing. I want to see this because that
Madam Chair, that's what I was going to say.
weighs heavily on my heart.
Now's the time for some of that support, so we have an awesome coaching team, and I think they'd all be open to being shadowed for the day so that you guys can see up close and personal what happens, on a day-to-day basis with them. So let us know.
I have one last question on this one, and that is, if you have a student in high school who's in a reading class, is it safe to assume that's remedial? Are there certified reading teachers teaching those classes, or are non-certified, non-reading endorsed certified teachers teaching any of these classes? Because I've heard that we have elective teachers teaching reading classes in high school, and I'm telling you, that it didn't make sense to me. And is that happening? I'm like, are our kids in remedial classes getting reading endorsed instruction?
So I can address that just a little bit. If we had the magic wand and we could get all the right teachers in the right places and go poof and make it happen, we would have already have done that. If we could make everyone reading endorsed to comply with the federal law and state law, we would have already have done that. And we are working in that direction. But unfortunately, because of the time that we're in, because of the constraints and the poaching in our district that goes on from the counties around us and pulls people out, and we have to do the undesirable shift, it does happen. It is not desirable, it's not what we want, but at the end of the day, that probably is the absolute best option we have at that point in time. Now, we are working toward reading endorsements with some incentive funding, and we're working toward that heavily and hard and doing our best to get everyone on board with that. We have a state law that we're supposed to be complying with, and we're doing the best we can for that as well.
And we did partner last year as well as partner even bigger this year with University of Florida and the Flamingo Literacy Project at the UF Lassiter Center. And we have been pushing out information almost on the daily, trying to get our teachers to sign up. They have a new program starting November that's going to be completely virtual, but it does follow the state coaching model with literacy. It's going to be very oversight and driven for the science reading component. So I have been really pushing out to these guys to share that information to get teachers signed up, because that literacy reading endorsement is more and more becoming a requirement for the state. Not only is it the best practice that we need to have. So we are pushing that. We are giving them avenues to complete that. I pushed it out 2 days ago, and I probably had 15 to 20 emails already of teachers asking for more information about signing up. So I feel like that's a good partnership as well. And I think people are just now seeing more and more the power and the need for that reading endorsement. So we have coaches pushing that, driving that, seeing the need in the process, and I think we're taking steps toward that. But certainly we don't have everybody reading endorsed that we need reading endorsed at this time.
Well, I tell you what, I have some access to community resources, and if I'm excited about the Lassiter Center, it's one of my little groups of people I online stalk, and if you guys want to get Orton Gillingham or dyslexia certifications, we can, I will make the resources available for that, for not only for that to happen, but it's the incentivization part that we want to support you. Like I'll be aggressive with you, but I'll still also, I want you to be successful.
I know we've gone way over our time, and I apologize. This team is just amazing, and my heart is so happy and full with all of the positives they do. I do want to bring to the acknowledgement of the board that there's a great potential. We have a candidate from Minnesota who is Orton Gillingham certified, flying in on Monday, who sought us out as a district. Who's flying in Monday to get her fingerprints and is, pending board approval and so forth, hoping to come on board with us down the road. So there are good things happening. We are looking to add to our team in all of those ways, and appreciate your support in getting us, maybe we can get some names to you on who would be interested in following up on that.
All right, I appreciate it, ladies.
I would like to say the one big thing that Ms. Busen said that I disagree with is the whole oil tanker and turn it around slowly. We don't have time for that. The time is now. The team is in place. The resources are at our fingertips. It is our time to act. They're doing it. They're getting the support. We're supporting them. We're providing the vision. And we're going to see results this year because of the great work this team is doing. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, can I just take a look at this and then shoot it back to you in the career?
Same goes for you ladies as well. Y'all are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. But if y'all would like to go, this is probably the right time. Then we do understand.
At this time, is there any citizen comment on agenda items? Seeing no citizen comment on agenda items, we will move forward to the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that a board member would like to have pulled and placed as an action item?
Yes, I'd like item C, facility use agreement, move to an action item.
Just to clarify, do you want to just discuss it or not?
Discuss it.
You just want some discussion on it?
Okay.
But either way.
So does it stay there as a discussion item, or does it get moved? For my own clarification.
If you want to discuss it, I think we can move it and then discuss it.
Okay, that's it. I just wanted to discuss
Right.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We'll have a little discussion on item H. So do you want me to move those down to action items, or?
If you just want to discuss them, let's discuss them.
All right.
Pass them unless there's action you want to take.
Okay, let's
I'll
hit us with
recommend
this.
that we discuss it.
hit us with item C.
Okay, item C, the use agreement. It wasn't something that I was familiar with. It looked a little complex. It has influences throughout our community on different fees for certain people. And I would just like a little narrative on it so that I understand it a little bit.
Sure.
What our goals here are.
Sure, absolutely. And again, this is nothing new. We have had facilities use agreement in place for quite some time. We do like to operate off the premise that our schools should be an open, inviting, welcoming use of the public type of facilities. With that in mind, we also have to be very safe and secure and controlling of who, when, and how our facilities are used. With regard to school facilities that are used by school activities, it's a simple matter of working that through your school office and getting, the proper reservations done if you wanted to use the gym or the auditorium or something like that. What we do wind up happening, however, and the main use for this is we have outside groups, not school affiliated, that desire to use our facilities. That has been done for years, and our goal is not to stop that, but to kind of have a little bit more control of who and when and where they are used. A good example is we have a church that uses the the auditorium at Cloiston High School. And so they were using it. We really had nothing written. We had no written formal insurance type of an agreement or any written formal agreement on who was going to pay what with regard to expenses. The facilities use agreement provides that for us and allows us to have it all clearly delineated, the fees, the expenses, liabilities, and so on and so forth. Does that help?
Yeah. So an outside group that's a nonprofit, like a softball team, the local
Right.
softball
Sure.
teams, and they want to use the lights at night.
Right.
The fee for that is that's still standard, and they pay for that.
That's right. And so if there are fees involved, we use administrative discretion on who it is. If it was our softball team or our clubs, we're probably not going to charge outside. If it was an outside non-for-profit, we would use discretion on what would be a fair use charge for that. If it was an outside for-profit, then that may be totally different as well.
Well, I was just thinking of our local community softball team or something
Right.
like that.
Exactly.
I mean, they don't have deep pockets, and
Sure.
they're nonprofit. They get their fees from charging each
Sure.
kid like $30.
That's right.
Participate.
Mr. Lukenhouse has a workforce training room. A good example is he has businesses that from time to time need to do OSHA training, and he will allow them to come in and use the room. You know, most of the time we don't charge unless we have to do special prep or cleanup or something, but that's what we should be doing, using our facilities to further educate, help people, businesses in the town.
My feeling exactly. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Superintendent, I
Yes,
do
sir.
have a question on that. Since you did bring that up, with the sports facilities, since we rent those or pay a fee to the city, is the light bill and everything included in that fee?
It is.
So are we legally allowed to charge for lights and stuff
We're not
like
talking
that
about-
to other
we're-
facilities?
we-
Other people?
We wouldn't sublease like the baseball fields if that's what you.
Isn't that what the $100 fee would be to somebody else or whatever for the lights?
Well, that would be like our football field, for example, or
Listed
the,
everything. It
well,
was baseball, softball, the whole
but
shebang.
only the ones we own. Like in LaBelle, we own some, here we do not. We wouldn't sublet.
Okay,
something.
that's why I want to make sure that we're not, you know,
Right,
getting
right.
in
Sure.
some legal issues there.
Right, right.
So,
Good point.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That answered my question. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on item C? All right. Item H, the teacher salary increase allocation. I'm sorry, Ms. Cox, I did not open that up till like 4:59 last night. I didn't open my email, so I didn't see that. Is everybody in agreement, like all the HCEA
Okay.
and
So to that point, the teacher salary increase allocation, TSIA, that is the funds that is attached to the governor's initiative to get everybody to the 47.5 minimum starting salary. The funds that we receive from that, number one, is to maintain the raises that we went through last year, as well as continue to try to drive up to get as close as we can or achieve the 47.5. The funds that they provided did not achieve the 47.5, but however, we have to statutorily distribute and allocate that money.
Okay.
So it's not, we have discussed this with HCEA, they're not in disagreement with this. However, we have to follow the statutory piece of this. Ms. Cox has gone through and made sure that we follow the statute and how this was designed to be allocated. There were a few folks that got omitted inadvertently. That's why you got the update late last night, and that would have fallen on the bottom on the 20% piece of that.
she didn't send it late, I opened it late.
Oh, okay, got it. Yesterday morning late, I'm sorry. Okay, is that helpful? Is that
Yes,
okay.
all right, that's all I needed to know.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, Superintendent, may I have your recommendation on the consent agenda?
I recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Have a recommendation of a motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Consent agenda passes unanimously. Moving forward to action items. Action item A is a new personnel allocation request. Superintendent, may I have your recommendation?
I have the recommendation that you approve the new personnel allocation request.
Second.
We're on fire today, okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Action item A, new personnel allocation request passes unanimously. And now moving forward to board member business. Reminder on the school facilities workshop. Next meeting in LaBelle, I believe we're meeting at 5.
I'll start at 5.
5 p.m.
And we'll have, by then, we will also have the request Mr. Baskin had made for the energy audit information. You'll have it before or on that date.
And then moving forward to the redistricting discussion. I don't know if you guys got the email from Ms. Collins showing the new maps.
So
Anything you would add to that?
that just at this point in time, it's just an FYI. And Ms. Shattuck, please keep me straight on this, but on our next meeting, we're going to need to tentatively agree to tentatively adopt those. And then we are advertising those. We've already sent them to you, and they're currently posted on our website. So if you want to push those out to your constituents, they can see them on the website where y'all can discuss it with them, and you can hold what discussions you would like to as well. So we just want to make sure that y'all are aware of that. We do need to tentatively agree on the 9th, right, to adopt those new boundaries. Okay, all right.
Can I discuss it now, since we're in the sunshine? Just
Yeah, I don't
some
see why not.
comments.
Sure.
Mr. Baxter. So, I know we've always shared custody of Montura, and what I saw on the map change is like before your district had probably like 10% of Montura.
Just a couple of roads.
Just a couple of roads.
Line areas, so.
Well, and I had like the other 90%. Well, now it's like split right up the middle.
Oh, more so. No, it's
Really?
even more. He would get about 75%, you get about 25%.
And so, I don't know, I read that one.
Did they take a different piece, I haven't seen the map yet, so did they take a different piece of mine away from somewhere? Did they just add that to it?
So,
What did they do?
I wasn't checking out I'm not as familiar with your district, but you have a huge geographic district.
Yes, I
But
do.
I took, what I noticed in mine was the area that I felt like the area they took away from Montura, they gave me a different cut of Port LaBelle. They added some Port LaBelle.
And I believe they moved Mr. Dick, they were shifting the Hooker's Point area just a little bit on the east side of yours.
I mean, it's nothing that I can't live with. I don't know, like I think I read it a little different than Mr. Swindle, and I was concerned that
They gave me a big chunk.
just like my interpretation of the map, maybe I kind of felt, maybe like 40-60 or something, but I hate seeing that community that has the same vested interests and similarities being split up like that. I mean, like,
I do agree there should be one rep for that. It's very confusing to those folks to have to
It
say
is.
which.
Yeah, I don't like the way they did that.
Yeah.
It should be squared on.
I agree. Regardless of the split, it should be one rep for that area.
Yeah,
For
for
both
the whole
sides.
area. I mean, it was bad enough just with me having 3 or 4 roads out there, but.
Would y'all like for me to make that recommendation back as discussion back to the county?
Yeah, I think we need to definitely ask them to
I can
redo
do
that
that.
again, because that's gonna be very confusing,
I can do that.
for sure. Thank you. So, yeah, I did not have a chance to see that, I did not see that email with that map in it.
I just think that's a community, it's a growing community, and it is one that, ever since I've been on the board and campaign, from, feels like a million years ago, but I've always talked about what was promised to Montura, and I can just, when I'm trying to think about how it would play out in the future, like if you had a community meeting, you'd have to like almost publicly notice it, because we would, if you had two different reps, and even on, the same thing for the commission, so,
Yeah.
I mean, that would just
Yeah.
give it to one or the other.
Who did that? Did they source that out and have
Yes.
somebody draw that?
They did. But hence the need for the public meeting and the input and the comments, because when those folks sit and algorithmically come up with the numbers, they don't take that into consideration.
Right. Yeah, they just look at the numbers and not the location.
Exactly.
I did see that they were requesting that we do this at 5 o'clock. If we're gonna have public comment and things like that during that meeting, I would request that we do it at the end, where we give people more time. We're not cutting folks off to try to get through the rest of the meeting with other stuff, especially if we're doing our regular business and the county has to do theirs. I would think that it might be,
I don't know that we'll do that. I think that they're gonna visit one of our meetings, and we would do it early, and then they would leave, and then we would handle our normal meeting, and the same with us. We would go to theirs and do this first, and then we would leave the public hearing, and then they could hold their meeting. So we're not gonna sit
So
through
we're
each
not
other's.
gonna do any of our business.
That's correct.
So that's all we're gonna do for business, for a meeting for that particular day, or what?
So we're doing a joint meeting where they will come to us first, and we will hold that one at 5. And then we would hold that public hearing, and then in that, and then they would leave, and then we would do a normal meeting. When we visit their meeting, we will start at 5, and they will do the hearing up front, and then we could leave, and then they would hold their regular meeting.
When we leave, that's what I'm saying, when we leave, are we going to our?
No, I believe on that date.
Meeting after that?
We added theirs on as an add-on to ours, so it's not a regular meeting date for us, I don't believe.
Oh, okay.
I'll clarify that for you, I'm not 99% sure that's the way it worked out.
Can we still, I would still like to do it at 5:30 where we could actually have more representation, give the people more opportunity. I know the district, that's one of the biggest things I hear the complaint about the county commission meetings are 5 o'clock is too early. The average working person cannot get to those meetings.
Okay.
And if we're gonna have a big public discussion like that on redistricting, I think we need to give the public every opportunity to be there.
Okay, I'll check into what's been advertised and what's legal and what they're willing to do. I'll be happy to
I'd like to at
represent
least
these
do it
two.
at 5:30 like a regular meeting that gives a little more time anyway for public to show up.
Okay, absolutely.
So because that's the way it is on the agenda, do we need to vote on that?
Not yet. We may have to come back and change it. But let me hold the discussion with them to find out what's legal and what they've done and what's advertised and what we can and can't do.
I think, Superintendent, if you'll allow me to speak to it really quickly, I believe what we're doing is the similar process to what we did 10 years ago with redistricting, where we're doing it in conjunction with the county, and we're going to hold 2 public hearing meetings with them that are joint, and we're holding one in Clewiston and one in LaBelle. And the first one will be in November, and that will be at the start of the normal county commission meeting in Clewiston. And that will be, I want to say November 17th. It's not a day that we normally meet. So you all would go there at 5, hold that joint public hearing, and then that would be over. They would continue the rest of their meeting. Then the second joint public meeting will be December 7th, which is our normal meeting. We changed it to be in LaBelle so that we can have public hearings in both Clewiston and LaBelle. And now they've requested it meet at 5 instead of 5:30. That's up to you. If you want to change your meeting to accommodate them to 5:30, or, we could say no. So if we did change the meeting to start at 5 instead of 5:30, that would be something that you would have to, just take an action on, decide to do. But that's where we're at right now with the meetings. And the one thing to keep in mind is that after that joint meeting, you would hold the rest of your meeting where you could vote on resolution to officially adopt that redistricting map. But one thing to keep in mind is that the whole process does have to be done in an odd numbered year, which is 2021, if we're doing it this year. So we would have to do it by the end of December. Thank you.
So the county commission requested for the 5 o'clock meetings.
Right.
All right, just for convenience for them.
And is that I know Mr. Baswick's not a fan. Is there anybody else here that's particularly rubbing against?
I'm not against, at least, President asking that question and seeing if, it's right, 5 o'clock is hard for a lot of people. I can't disagree that
Yeah.
a lot of people do work, and a lot of people that pay the taxes are the working people in our county, and they're not, yeah. So, why not just ask and see what it is?
Why did they change it? Well, did they say why they went to 5 o'clock rather than?
That's the start time of their normal meeting, so I suspect that's what they wanted to do, was just keep it consistent with that.
Oh, okay.
But I don't mind, I'll ask the question and see what's possible with regards to moving that later.
But our normal meeting is 5:30, so they should accommodate ours on that one at the very least.
And they will, they ask us to change that, sure. It could be done.
Okay.
At least 5:15. Well, we won't work at 5:30, they can show me 5:30.
Meet the bill.
Have a Coke and smile, wait. Yes.
All right, we need an action on that, Molly, or we're gonna let Mr. Swindle? So, yes, I would say it's up to you. You could say that you want to table it or not take action on it, or you could take action on it at this time. Like I said, it was just something they requested for their convenience. I think their attorney, Mr. Lapp, mentioned to me that one or more board members had some other commitments that night that they wanted to get to. So it was really just for their convenience. We can keep it at 5:30 if that's what the board wants to do, or we can move it to 5. Or, like I said, you could table it.
I move that we table it until Mr. Swindle has further discussion with the county.
On the 19th, I'll bring back more information.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously for Superintendent Swindle to reach out to County Commission to discuss 5:30 start time. All right. Okay, so now we have moved past board member business. Is there any board member business by district? Reverend Brown?
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's go.
Okay, and this is quick. I talked to Roger Greer. I don't know if everybody knows him. He's the director of the Port LaBelle Utility Services, and he tells me that every day people are coming in there and requesting water services. About 6 months ago, they increased their impact fees for water services for Port LaBelle. What is happening now is they're getting a pool of money that they can use for the infrastructure. A lot of their plumbing is 30, 40, even 50 years old, and they have that money now. And so a few months ago, I brought up the point about impact fees for schools. And at one time, we had that program. And we put it on hold because building had stopped all over, and we didn't want to negatively impact the building. But right now, everybody is building, at least in the greater Port LaBelle area, they have water available and stuff like that. So again, I've asked about some impact fees for our school district. Our high school in LaBelle is over capacity. Our other schools are very busy, very built out. And I think it'd just be an avenue where we could get a little bit of extra money for our infrastructure.
Ma'am, Mr. Semmerdyke and the rest of the board, we have had that discussion, and I do believe that it's very worthy of continuing to discuss. We are a growing district. We're one of the anomalies in the state. With regard to that, we believe that there are a lot of people moving out of the urban areas and seeking the rural life and the affordability that we have of new homes and green space. And we should look at that. We should look at that very closely. Whether or not impact fees are the right way to go or not, I'm not advocating or for or against it. Sales tax, we have the option for some optional sales taxes. However you do it, you're going to impact the tax base. You're going to impact people that are living and paying the bills. So if that's something y'all want to look at, we just need to do it strategically and do it together as a team and do it, on a basis that is correct as we move forward.
So how do we proceed? Because this was brought up probably last March, and we said,
Right.
we're going to look at it. What is the next step in that sequence?
Okay. All right. If that is something y'all would like for us to work on, Ms. Cox and I and the team can work from a financial strategy standpoint to look at what the options are, number one, and then what the steps within those options are. Some of them, you have to go through the voting cycle. It has to be voted on. I believe all of them most likely do. But nonetheless, we have to meet deadlines and make things happen and plan way far in advance. And so we're more than happy to look into that. And then what the impact would be. We do know that you're spot on. Right now, we are looking at an addition on the LaBelle High School. We are rezoning where schools go in the elementary side to LaBelle because we have some schools that are just busting at the seams. We've already had to shift some teachers around. So it is an issue. And we are hearing continual knowledge like what you just indicated Mr. Greer said, with people coming every day getting their hookup. And so that's an indicator that it's going to continue to grow, and we need to be proactive and prepared for that.
So the impact, we had no impact fee for the schools at one time. My understanding that we just put it on hold, we didn't discard it. Why can't we just re-implement it? A long time ago, we had to go to the county commission, is my understanding, to get permission. And all that had already, that process was already completed. So what, is there just a process of, we're turning it back on?
Great questions that I don't have the answer to, but I'm more than happy to look into what that would be, what the answers are, and what the right path may be, or at least bring you options so you can decide what the right path would be.
And we could expect that maybe at the next board meeting?
Next board meeting will be a little tight.
And I can speak to that because I did start working on some information back in June to bring forward to the board, and things just got a little crazy, but from what I had read and researched back then is that the board would have to take action, like make a vote that they would want to move forward with impact fees. From there, we would have to do a study that would help us calculate what would be a reasonable impact fee, because the statute says that it has to be based on recent and localized data. So we would have to do a survey to help us determine what that would be and develop an ordinance in conjunction with the Board of County Commissioners and get that passed. So those are the steps that I recall. So it would be a fairly lengthy process when you think about, doing the study, getting the vote.
I thought we had already done all that
Well,
originally.
we did. The last study was done in, I think it's either 2005 or 2010, so it's
Right when the
not.
economy was staying. Yes.
Right, so it wouldn't be recent data that we would be basing the impact fee on, and that's why it appears we have to redo a study, which would be a cost to the district.
Well, and my fear is by the time we're gonna do the study, and then we're gonna do a workshop, and then we're gonna all meet and talk about it. By then, all this building could be done, and say, oh, it's too late.
You got a good point. We're behind now. I don't disagree.
I agree, because there are over 500 new homes being built right now, and if we had that fee, we'd have $50,000, $70,000 easily in the kitty, without they really impacting the business, the building community, because they're hot. So, by the next meeting, can we have an outline of where we need to be to get this going? If obviously we can't get it going, then we have an outline of what our first step is, our next step, when do we need to vote, and so forth.
Can I ask you to wait until the first week of November one? There's a strategic, just to make sure that we have time to amply research and get the information that we need.
November.
Yes, sir, the first meeting in November, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was it for me.
Mr. Basquin.
Yes, I do have one item, and it is exactly what we're doing right this minute. Meetings in the morning. I know we discussed, trying this out to see how it works. I'm not sure how it's faring out for anybody else. I personally, it's a struggle to make it here. It extremely disrupts my day. As a business owner trying to run a company and trying to do this at the same time, I'm not sure if it affects anybody else, but I don't want to miss any of the meetings, but it's to the point where I almost turned around and went off today because I had a lot of other things I really, really need to be doing right now. I'd like to get a little bit of input from everybody else, if anybody else is experiencing difficulties making it, and then board members.
Well, I'll speak to it. When I agreed to it, my situation was not the same as it is now, and my obligations, I wasn't expecting to be doing, my schedule to have changed so drastically. And so it does make it challenging for me, but after, and so, I believe, you gotta sometimes suck it up for the team, but the conversation at the last meeting
when we talked about how, you know, we haven't had overwhelming feedback on it. Well, that conversation actually sparked conversation, and people reached out after that point and were like, hey, you know, I heard what was said there, like, you know, we just, you know, weren't going to be complaining about it, but we do think that it is, you know, even from our own staff and folks from the larger community, that it does impact their ability to interact. And, you know, most of them are online viewers, but even if you're at work, the boss doesn't necessarily want you watching your, you know, a school board meeting while you're supposed to be doing your work. And so I know that conversation, it did create some people, you know, weighing in on it. And I liked what I believe Mr. Samerdike said, that it is a public meeting. And it is, you know, the taxpayers are what, you know, funds our operations, funds our salaries, funds everything. And if we are asking our schools to be more responsive and inclusive of families and what's going on there, then, you know, it's not a bad idea to lead by example from the dais.
No, and I have a conflict too with our Tuesday morning meetings. I'm also on the executive board of Children's Network, and we have a board meeting every month. It's on a Tuesday morning, and so I missed the last one, and I'm in line to miss the next one. And if they, you know, our executive board is supposed to be present, so it's a conflict for me too. So I wasn't going to bring that up, but since Mr. Vasquez brought that up, I'm glad you did.
It's good. Thank you. It's taxing, it's different, so I think we tried on the basis that we would just try to see how it worked out. And I had to stay up most of the night with the family last night, but I got up this morning. Had another COVID death in the church, so I stay up tonight. We tried.
So from my standpoint, I would like to say, number one, be perfectly clear, these are school board meetings, okay? And we will honor, you know, the direction of the board. The model of day meetings are very widely used and accepted in districts nationwide, and so that's not a new concept whatsoever. With regards to our staff, part of us meeting now, because we typically have, if y'all remember back, how many folks typically come, you know, and engage, and it's a very low number anyway. And so what I'm trying to do, and we're on a mission to do what we can to be conducive to our business. And so with regard to our staff, we love it. They love it. It's better for them. There's times when this staff stays out until 8, 9 o'clock at night, you know, again, away from their home. That was the reason we switched to it to start with. So as far as we're concerned, we love it. However, I yield to the fact that this is a board meeting. If there are reasons y'all need to change, then we'll do what we need to do to accommodate.
We need to vote on this to make a change.
I need a motion.
So I make a motion that we move back to our 5:30 start times, our meeting times on a regular basis again.
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, but we, you know, suck it up for the team, but it is, as a business owner and as a taxpayer who pays everybody's salaries in these rooms, you have to be responsive to you guys answer to a superintendent, we answer to constituents. So we work for our bosses too. So is there any further discussion on the matter?
Well, and one of the problems we were having with the Monday morning meetings is we were having students, remember, we said, well, we're not going to bring in elementary schools, so we did this week, but generally speaking, that was one of the reasons too. So in the evening, we could certainly have our student faculty come, and the faculty can be here generally, those teachers that are teaching classes. I wanted to see the vocational teachers come in and stuff like that, but they're all teaching classes right now. So in some ways, I think it's, you know, there's some benefits. Obviously, I'm a morning person, a little sharper. I'm sharp as I ever am. It's best in the morning. So, but think that the afternoon, or the late afternoon is a better time for us. Thank you.
I think it might make it a little more palatable if we sort of do our best to limit our meeting within an hour, so, not just go long. It may help them, accept it better.
I feel attacked. I'm just kidding.
But he does have a point. I mean, if we could, be cognizant of the fact that sometimes our meetings do run until 7:30, 8 o'clock. For those who kind of get several that have a long drive, one way or the other. So, I mean, if we have things to discuss, we have things to discuss, but sometimes we beat the dead horse.
Well, and if you'll notice,
Oh,
business is business, you're right, and that has to happen in the sunshine. But if you'll notice, that's one of the reasons I try to reach out to y'all in advance. Because if it's minor questions or discussion things that I can do with you to bring that we don't have to take the time here, that's the reason that I do that for. But I would never take away your ability or right to discuss things here.
I feel like everything I feel like I need to say everything I say up here. So no promises on the keeping it at an hour, but I'll be cognizant of the issues.
This, I want you to let it all hang out.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You do not, I assure you. I assure you.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right.
9 o'clock, we were on the phone last night, so he will, he will discuss it, and I appreciate the fact that you were willing to talk with me last night, so it saved us a little bit of time anyway this morning.
All right, any further discussion on Mr. Basquin's motion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion to move the meetings back to the 5:30 regular time passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Nelson?
no.
Okay. So sorry, Reverend Brown, in advance. But this is still a daytime meeting, and I'm going to take my privilege to stretch it on out. So I made a request for summer school data, and we received it, and I replied all minus board members, because I had questions when I was looking at this data. And I haven't gotten, when I looked at the numbers, they simply just did not add up. And, when I started at teacher salaries and added all the teachers that we had here and divided it, it was going on for a month, divided it, and I know it's not exact salaries, but by the number of teachers. And when I multiplied that number by 12, we were coming in like less than the first year teacher salaries. So that's telling me those numbers were not correct. I had a lot of questions about the outcomes. You guys heard me getting fired up about outcomes tonight. And I asked for more clarification on how those outcomes are reported, how the assessments that were made, like how are you getting these outcomes? Like for instance, on one of them, they said we had 53% learning gains. So is that telling me that 40, we have the balance of these kids that made no learning gains, so like we wasted a whole summer, or did they make learning, how are our learning gains calculated and reported? And that was that email was sent out on September 24th. And I try to respect the staff's time and not put any kind of frivolous requests or ask any frivolous questions, but this is not frivolous. I want to know about money, because the money's not right. This number's not, Ms. Cox had permission to give, I don't know if the whole board got it, but the list of the bonuses that were paid out, and that's $300,000. Like, this money is really off here. And so I want clarification on that, and I want some solid numbers that I can believe in. It's concerning to me that all the people on this list, I have not had a reply on that. And, I'm not trying to be aggressive, but on the other hand, I'm not afraid to be either. And if I cannot get any answers when it comes to student outcomes and money, and I'm getting crickets on emails, I'm telling you, I'm at the point where I'm gonna start posting it on my website so people know that I'm asking the questions. And I'm doing my job. But this, I hate to be harsh about it, but this is not an isolated incident. I've kind of just reached my boiling point on it.
Well, I can address that. So the contact is me, okay? And so we have been pouring over the data, and I have a response, and we're finalizing and crafting it. You'll have it this afternoon, most likely shortly after lunch. Feel free to post anything you want on your website. The threads don't bother me.
It's transparency.
Transparency thread, I don't care what you call it, but that does not change the data that we have and what we're trying to put together and get to you. We're trying to be as methodical and careful and transparent as we can as well. So that was not to withhold or not provide anything. We're just doing the best job that we can, as well as run schools and do everything as well. But you will have a reply today, and if it's still not everything you want, then let me know, and I will do everything I can to get that specific data. But you will see through there that some of those summer school data are very, the response will outline it a little bit more once you have it and you'll see it. But some of the stuff you're asking for, there's no metrics, there's no way for us, just because of the sheer nature of summer school, to get that information. This probably is a conversation, and that would be best for you to sit down and ask specific questions.
I asked very specific questions. You were the two on this email, and the other staff was CC.
Right.
So I did ask on the 24th. I have several issues on getting crickets on
Well, again, it's
on
because
questions that I'm
some of the
asking.
stuff you're asking is not data that we have, can get, or keep because of the sheer nature of
I'm asking for correct financials and measurements of student achievement. And I don't think that's too much to ask.
It's not. And again, you'll get a response shortly after lunch today.
Thank you. You have anything?
We do have, I just wanted to point out that, roughly, I think a month ago, we sat here and we were north of 50, I think, crowding 70 students with COVID. And we had about, I think, 20 to 30 employees that also had COVID. And we had a good wad, 130 or 40 individuals that were quarantined. I just wanted to report today that we have 2 student positive COVID cases, 2 total employee COVID cases, and I think the number is like 8 or 10 total quarantine. So we have, just like the state and the nation, I suspect we are in a great curve on the way that it should be going with regard to the COVID cases. And in the region, as reported on the news, that Hendry actually is the lowest. And so we're proud of that, and so we applaud the efforts of everyone and the patience of everyone, because I know that it was, it was tough. It was tough there for a long time. We were in rough shape. We had folks that were exponentially working and doing things and working very long hours and covering a lot of things and making it happen. So we're very appreciative to everything and everyone to make that happen. And I would ask the board to stay. When the meeting is adjourned, we have a few key staff that's going to stay. We would like to have an executive session. Shouldn't take but a handful of minutes.
All right. So at this time, seeing no more business before the board, do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.